You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. This is July 13th, 2020. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
We're back. Hockey is almost back. I mean, there's players on the ice. Live sports in general, we're only like a week or two away from baseball.
Yeah, less than 2 weeks now, I think. 25th.
I'm so nervous that this is all going to go away in a week's time. But I'm so excited to watch live sports.
I'm with you. I literally Sunday morning, I was just like kind of sitting at home. I'm like, well, what should I do today? And in the summer, especially in the summer, that's when I'm like, well, I'll watch some baseball or, maybe some racing of some form. Lots of options on a Sunday in the summer. And I just sat there and waited until 12:30 when racing started. So
I can't wait, Carl. I can't wait. It's been so long since our last show. It's been how many, over 2 weeks?
That's right. Yeah, because we did it. Was our last episode the draft lottery?
It was.
Oh, my goodness.
The reason I'm bringing up the amount of time that's passed since, because I'm still angry about it. And I know that you, as a fan of the Colorado Avalanche, have been through something like this before. And I would just need to know, how long does the anger last?
It lasts until Cale Makar shows up in the playoffs, and it's great. That's when it ends. Man,
that's a long time, and that just means it might never end. It might just be here forever in my heart.
It ended for me, in all honesty, at the draft when we got Makar, and I was very happy with that pick. And I saw what happened ahead of us, and I was like, you know what? I'm content with that. I was happy with what we got it for. And so I think will all depend on what happens with that pick.
Well, my anger got topped up, which you didn't get. And you want to know why my anger got topped up?
Yeah, I do.
Because since they've all been reporting and releasing information on this new return to play format, one of the nuggets that came out of it was that all of the points and goals scored during this play-in round will count as playoff statistics.
And that riles you up. Why, Nick?
Because they said it's not the playoffs. It's a play-in round. And I'm going to save you the beep, all this stuff that they're talking about, it's not a playoff team who's going to win the draft lottery. Why are you giving them playoff statistics then?
That's a very valid point. When Sidney Crosby pads his career playoff stats and the Penguins get the first overall pick afterwards when they lose to the Canadiens, shouldn't happen.
No, this whole part of all of what's going on right now is a joke. They fumbled it here.
There's definitely a lot of things that they've messed up, and kind of like they've done it one way and the other way all at once. This is a perfect example, right? Like, it doesn't count as playoffs, but also it does. It's a qualifying round, not a playoff round.
Yeah. Now I'm all riled up again. And you know what? I came into the show tonight and I was prepared to commend and compliment the league and the players for figuring out everything they figured out over the last 2 weeks. And now I'm mad again.
And that's allowed, Nick. Look, we've got a lot of emotions lately with all these things. You're getting something back that you've been without for months, right? It's been what? The last game, I believe, was March 17th, was the last night of hockey. It's been almost 4 months, Nick.
Oh my goodness.
Hockey has been here.
It's crazy. It's longer than the off season.
A third of a year has passed. It's crazy. The That's as long as the regular Stanley Cup Finals, Nick, has passed since we last had a game.
They're just going to pick it up where they left off.
Well, we do have a ton to get to this week. Lots has happened since we were last with you. And let's get started with some good news, Nick. The NHL, you said at the start, the great news that the NHL is back. We are back. We are back weekly from now till the end of the playoffs or until it gets shut down for whatever reason.
We're back.
We are back, and I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I started to get excited this weekend when I checked my Twitter and they had all sorts of hockey news dropping. I was like, oh, this feels, I'm excited.
Yeah, and like we saw every player, every team tweeting out and posting on their socials, players at practice. We had like these new weird fun Zoom press conferences happening today. It's happening, Nick. We're getting ready to go back. August 1st is the first games that count, which is less than 3 weeks away. So that's our big news of the week, that we're back. Before we get to the rest of the show with all the NHL news, let's remind everyone about Park Power. Head to parkpower.ca and you can get your best choice for utilities in Alberta. Park Power is the best place to go. And one of the things that I love is that Park Power talks about, and they don't just talk about, but they do. They work through ways to support their communities. And their way that they say it is they aim to be a good corporate citizen and contribute to our community in positive ways, which I think is something that we're all looking for businesses to be doing now. And Park Power has been doing it for so long, and I really like and support them for that. So head to parkpower.ca where you need electricity anyways. You might as well get it from a company that cares about you and the community you live in. So head to parkpower.ca for that.
Oh, you know what? Before we get going, you know what else is back? Look at this. My beard's back.
Yeah, it really is.
I don't think I've shaved since the last time that I shaved.
So you've shaved twice
Just
since
once.
hockey disappeared? Once since hockey disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I don't see you, like we talk, but you're not sending me selfies in the 2
I can
weeks
if you
in
want.
I mean, it would help. Actually, so it is nice. I got an actual haircut at a barber shop.
Did you go? How was it?
It was a really good experience. I wore a mask when I was in there.
Yeah.
And like I would just like when they needed to like do around my ears, which was the part I was most curious about, like how are they going to handle that? Mm-hmm. I would just take it off and just like hold it down, but still cover my mouth and nose, etc.
Yeah.
I don't know what I guess my mustache is the etc. in that mouth, nose, etc. But it was good. The one thing that was weird about it though, Nick, I don't know about yourself. I haven't really studied your hair situation as in depth as I have my own.
I wear a lot of hats.
That too. I have a widow's peak. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's lots of folks have them, right? And I don't know the percentage of how many people do you think would have a widow's peak?
This is not at all where I expected the show to go. More than I would think, probably.
Probably, yeah. We have literally like 10 topics written down about hockey, and I'm diverging to talk about widow's peaks. Anyways, I went there, and they just buzzed it right off. You can see right here, it's gone.
Yeah.
I no longer have one, but I have some stubble there now. And I'm not sure how I feel about that.
No, they didn't ask you? They just did it?
No questions asked. They did ask, like, do you want your eyebrows trimmed? Do you want any of these other things? And I just went, well, that's gone.
That's a bold barber.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's what you get. I mean, it was a great haircut other than that. So let's go back to hockey.
let's talk about hockey.
The part of the NHL getting back was they needed to ratify their return to play protocol. And one thing that they did, and I actually found it very interesting, and I think that's a noteworthy piece, is they tied it to the extension of the collective bargaining agreement. So the NHL extended that for 4 years. We now have hockey until 2025, 2026 season. So we got that extension done as well as this. Do you think that we would have gotten this return to play happening without a CBA extension?
Yeah, I think so. I think like the downside to having nothing is too big. I feel like I should have more to say about that. But no, I think they'd still be trying to get back to finish the season and play the rest of the hockey.
Well, and I think, like, to me, I look at it as a big bargaining chip for the players, right? Because they're the ones putting themselves at risk. And they really, what we saw in this new CBA was all player benefit things, right? The things the players wanted, they get because they managed to negotiate. It's like, hey, you want playoffs? We want this, right?
Yeah, well, I think part of it too is there's no ignoring how significant of a financial impact this whole shutdown is going to have, both long-term and short-term. And I think it was in everybody's best interest to get the CBA done now and work together, better together, to come to some agreements there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did read that there's a couple owners who weren't too happy about how they settled some topics.
Which topics in particular did you see that on?
The Olympics. Because now part of the new CBA is that the door is back open for the Olympics, which I always said it would be. They'd be going to China. I always said that. But the door's back open for the Olympics pending an agreement with the IOC. That there was an owner or a couple owners who were pretty dead set against the Olympics. So they weren't happy about that. And there was another piece. They weren't happy that arbitration was not tackled at all because they want to see the arbitration system completely overhauled. And that didn't get touched at all in this CBA.
Yeah, it was very few things that actually did change, which is a rarity, right? Like, we're used to the last two that took a lockout, and now we got a cap and all these big, big changes. Really, it was the Olympics are a thing. And the other major change was the changes to escrow, which really had to happen with the owners, not making any money in this last bit. I saw that for certain players. So, and this was a hypothetical, I forget where I saw it. It said with escrow, the way that it was under the current CBA, a player living in New York City, paying New York City taxes and escrow would make $0 next year if they stayed in that current situation. So not one that could actually work.
No, not an option.
No.
At all.
No. Just, hey, you want to play for minimum salary? Because the minimum actually becomes zero. So what would you say is like for those who aren't sure, because you hear that word escrow thrown around a lot in these CBA talks. Do you have an easy way to describe that? Because I've been trying to think of one, and I've got one, but I'd love to hear your way of describing that too.
Of like explaining escrow?
Yes.
Oh,
the look, if you could see the look on Nick's face, and he was like, you want me to explain escrow right now?
Okay. So imagine you're hosting a party and someone brings pie for dessert. Okay. And
Love
they say
that person. They can come anytime.
They say this whole pie is for you, but they cut out one piece and they say, but I also brought a board game and we're going to put this one piece of pie in the fridge away from the rest of the pie. You can eat the rest of the pie, but you can only eat this one piece if you win the board game. Does that explain it?
I think so. And so taking that analogy, winning the board game is that the salary cap actually amounts to 50% or whatever amount the owners get for their salary cap negotiated amount. So right now, the NHL was taking 20% of players' salaries, putting it into a fund to hedge their bets to say, look, if we we set the salary cap at this. If we don't hit it, we're taking that money back and you'll get whatever's left.
That's right. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah, exactly. So, and why that's an issue right now is the NHL in no way, especially without this return to play, without fans in the seats, there was no chance that they were going to reach that salary cap number and be hitting 50%. So the players were getting none of that escrow money back. It was all going to the owners.
Yeah.
So what the players did negotiate was right now it's sitting at 20%, and they've negotiated it down big time. It's now going down to, where's the number here?
Wasn't it 6%?
It is going to go down. So this next season is 20, then 14, 18, 10, and 6 by the end of the CBA.
So down to 6 by the end of it. It's a big win for the players.
Huge. Yeah, because now that's 14% more that you take home and don't have to rely on the owners doing their job.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, even if you're on any size of deal, that's a big, right? You essentially got a 14% raise. So big deal for them, gives them a lot more security. And I think it will be good for the health of the league because it means the owners and the league have to continue to push and find new ways because they don't just get to rely on the players to get them that money back. They need to find new ways to make money, which I'm all in favor of.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. The escrow thing was always kind of weird to me because I just couldn't put myself in their position and think about how I would be happy or okay with that.
I don't even see that in many other sports to say that, right? So anyway,
no. Olympics. Do you think they're going to go back to China? Because that's another one that came out of the CBA hugely in the favor of the players.
Big time, right?
The players want to go to the Olympics.
Yeah, and now they're going to. I think they will. The biggest issue in the past was the NHL was not wanting to pay for their insurance, right? The players' insurance. IOC wasn't willing to pay for it. Now that they've written it in there, that they will pending that, I think it gives the NHL an out. But I think we will see some big time backlash from the players if they don't get that to work. So I think at this point they have to.
When this whole thing went down last time, didn't the IIHF step up at one point and said, "Look, we'll cover the insurance costs"? And at that point, the league was like, "It's too late. We already said no."
Yeah.
So they. The IIHF might be on the hook then to pay for these insurance fees.
I think they might have to. And it does make one thing that is not stated in this, and I wasn't able to find anything. One of the NHL's big money things was the World Cup of Hockey, and that was their replacement for the Olympics. It will be interesting to see if they still hold that event with the Olympics happening.
I think they'll still do it.
I think so too, because of the money that they get. It was a hit. It was a big time hit. So
for sure. And we just talked about owners having to work harder to bring in more revenues with the lack of escrow. So I think they'll for sure do more stuff like that.
I think so too. So we've got right now, we are sitting, it is Monday, July 13th, as we said. We are sitting in the start of phase 3. It started today, Nick. Phase 3 of the NHL's return to play.
There have been so many phases in so many areas of so many things the last 3 months that I'm not even sure what phase 3 entails anymore. How many phases are there? 4?
There are 4 phases. You're right, because I saw today all of the province of Ontario hit phase 3 Friday, except for Toronto and surrounding areas.
Well, we're in phase 2 right now, but the province is moving into phase 3 on Friday, but some of the province is going to be in phase 2, so the rest of the province is going into phase 3.
Yeah, so you're going to stay in phase 2, but hockey is in phase 3 of 4.
Okay.
Phase 3 consists of actual training camp in the city, in the city that team plays in. So players have returned to their home stadiums and they're practicing, they're getting ready. So all these arenas have to get ice ready for a week and a half.
Brutal, eh?
I know that you took the ice out
in the middle of the summer,
but I know it's July, Tampa. and Arizona. But hey, if you could just go make ice, that'd be great.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I mean, I don't like to make light of injuries, but that in a little bit of a way explains why Steven Stamkos is already injured.
How is it like minus 2 days into training camp and that guy's hurt already? Can he not ever be healthy for longer than a week at a time?
No, he's day to day all the time.
What did he even do?
I don't know.
Is he out on the boat with Dustin Byfuglien?
I guess so, maybe. Yeah, it's and actually one thing that's interesting is so part of the phase 3 and into phase 4 for the rest of the season, the NHL is going to be, which seems shady, but they're going to be handling injury reports. I don't know if you saw this.
Sorry, I didn't see that. So you mean the league's going to handle it instead of the individual teams?
So the league has said, and it's already failed because we started to see it today where like individual media were reporting it, but the league is trying to handle it themselves because they don't want Steve Simmons reporting that Austin Matthews has COVID.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that they want to control their information and their narrative as people get sick, because people are going to get sick. Like it, in my opinion, it's kind of inevitable. And it is, again, I don't know if this is an opinion or not, but it's private health information. To me, that's not just stuff that you broadcast publicly about individuals. So it makes sense to me that they would want to take that as seriously as they seem to be.
That said, the way that I don't know if you saw how it was handled today. It was handled in the least discreet way possible. In that they would say like Steven Stamkos has an injury, and then they'd say Caleb Jones is unfit to practice.
Yeah, so they got to watch that language.
You've got to just don't say anything. Just be like, yeah, he can't play tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to watch that language.
Because you're right. It's 100% not fair to those players, right? Like the fact that we know Corey Crawford with Chicago seems like because of their wording, he's not able to play for whatever health-related reason.
Yeah.
They didn't say an injury, but we can assume some things.
Yeah.
And that's not fair.
No. That's interesting though. It'll be interesting to see how they I guess perfect that.
Right? Yeah.
What the final form looks like.
Yeah. And I mean, if a player wants to, right? We saw in the NBA today, Russell Westbrook came out and said, tested positive. That's why I'm not with the team. Which I mean, that's just a safe assumption. When the team is practicing to get ready and you didn't travel, we can kind of know. So we'll see. So phase 3 has started. We'll see lots of things happening in training camp over the next couple of weeks. That will be there. July 26th, those players and teams are going to be traveling to the hub cities, which are right by you and I, Nick.
Yeah. Your home province and my home province. They should they should rename the conferences.
The Carl Conference and the Nick Conference.
Yeah.
I like that. And we could actually make it like, we could just call it the Carlference.
And the Nick Friends.
And the Nick Ofference, which sounds like Nick Offerman, but it's
that's
different.
True. So Edmonton and Toronto are the two hubs.
And
do you think I thought about this when I saw this tweet last week. I was like, ask Carl about this. Do you think it is important for people to know what hotels the players are staying in?
I am shocked that they released that information. Like, it's going to be easy to find out.
What are they thinking?
Like, hey, you want to go see your favorite player from this team? Just congregate outside that hotel.
And you know people are going to do it.
Out of that, as I was watching, as most of us did, many of us did, watching The Last Dance and seeing like the Bulls team trying to get back to their hotels after games. And I'm like, man, it was chaos.
Oh my God.
And then thought of every team in the conference staying at 2 hotels and thought, well, we're going to have that.
And like opponents all staying in the same hotels.
Yeah. You go to the continental breakfast in the morning.
Oh my God.
There's only one muffin left.
And it looks like it's been tampered with a little bit. Like the top's only halfway cut through.
Yeah.
How many fire alarms are going to go off in those hotels in the next couple months?
Too many.
Too many.
Just buy earplugs and hope it's not actually on fire.
So Edmonton and Toronto, they decided that Canada was the way to go.
I mean, sounds about right.
It does, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like Edmonton's pretty consistent with how they're handling the situation. Toronto's definitely seemed to. Obviously, the rest of Ontario's moving into phase 3.
That's right.
I'm sure you'll be in phase 3 before you know it.
A couple weeks, probably.
I don't even know what phase we're in right now. I think it might be 2. It might be 3. There's no way to know.
Well, can you go inside restaurants?
Yes.
Okay, so you're ahead of us.
Okay.
We don't have indoor dining yet.
Okay. Then we're probably in phase 3.
Probably. Right up there with the NHL.
Us, the NHL, and the rest of Ontario are all in phase 3. But, I mean, and does it matter, though? Like, when you are watching these games, does it matter at all where these are being held?
No. Of course it doesn't. There's not going to be anybody there. It's just going to be on TV.
Like, even if you're in that city, right? Like, you're going to have the entire Eastern Conference, which in theory should be a huge deal. Like, if you were to actually do this in, like, I almost said real life. If you were to do this in a non-pandemic situation, it would be bananas.
Oh,
right? Like,
it would be madness.
It would be a blast.
They'd have, like, full parking lots set up with tents and, like, bouncy castles and
the city would shut down.
Activities. Yeah, completely.
It would be an amazing situation for fans in that city. It would be what the NHL wants outdoor games to be.
Yes.
But now, I mean, it's great for Hotel X and whatever other hotel they're using in Toronto.
Really, York? Why are we even saying this? We should not be reminding people.
These are, please don't go there. And also, these are not sponsored hotels. They are not paying us for this. So we should.
No matter how good of a name Hotel X is.
Have you ever, I mean, you're from the city. Have you ever stayed at Hotel X?
No, I didn't even know it existed. When I heard it, I was like, that's a great name for a hotel.
I mean, I wouldn't want to stay at Hotel X.
Sounds like an action movie hotel.
Yeah, it sounds way too intense for me. Hotel X? No, like Hotel T for Toronto. I'll stay there, sure. Hotel X? No, I'll pass. Thanks.
Well, don't go there.
Yeah. Anyways, don't visit them. We have had some players, so they had until 5:00 today to tell their teams if they were opting out of the playoffs. And we have had a number of players. Let's say the most notable player, Travis Hamonic, defenseman for the Flames, not going to be taking part in this. A lot of other players, and actually probably I was surprised by the small number of players who opted out.
I was kind of surprised too. I thought it would be way more.
Yeah. So the official list of players, Travis Hamonic, Max Domi is playing, but they're waiting for him to come. So, which is fair because apparently 3 players with the Canadians at some point tested positive. So Max Domi having type 1 diabetes, they decided to wait for him, which is a good idea. Him and the team are on board with that. Sven Barchi, Mike Green, Roman Polak, and Steven Kampfer, who I've never even heard of, which good for him. They all opted out. So only 6 players opted out, which was sure.
It's pretty, it's pretty good for the league and the teams, and the return to play, I think. It's good that they didn't have any like true star players opt out. Because that would have hurt a lot, and that would have, probably led to set more of an example. But I don't know. I was surprised that it was only these players.
Well, because we heard, unconfirmed, kind of like I've heard media reports where guys were saying like 75% of NHL players weren't on board with the return to play and some of those sorts of numbers. And so I was like, all right, well, let's see how many actually did. And apparently the number is 6. So for all of those people who were like, who were reporting that, maybe don't.
Yeah. It's a good lesson.
Yeah. One other thing that we have going into next year, and it's actually going to be kind of interesting. I'm going to take it back a second. With camps just opening up, players just returning, there's not really a lot of on-ice news as of yet coming out. So we'll kind of next week, our plan is to talk about some of what's happened. We're going to preview each conference the next 2 weeks to prep you for the qualifying round. That's not the playoffs, but is statistically the playoffs. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Terrible.
But there's been other non-on-ice news this week as well. So one thing, and it kind of ties to a couple things, the salary cap, which obviously tied to the escrow. We mentioned that it was likely going to be flat next year, confirmed that it will be. What kind of impact do you see this having? I think it'll differ from team to team, but is there kind of a general idea you have?
Yeah, it's not immediate, but definitely starting next year, there's going to be some teams that are hurting for cap space, and they're going to find it extremely difficult to make some moves, because a lot of teams, and I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are the best example, the way they went and signed their 3 stars the last year or two. They signed these guys to big contracts, 4 stars, I guess, because Tavares, with the expectation that the salary cap is going to continue to go up year over year. So they're going to get some more space at the end of that year. Teams like that are going to be strapped for cash, and teams who have more cap space available have suddenly become, they have a lot more opportunity, I think, to get some things that they want or they need out of these teams that have filled their salary cap.
Absolutely. So you use the Toronto example. They're sitting, as of right now, according to Cap Friendly, $5 million in cap space next year, with only 16 players signed.
Yeah.
They're going to have to get creative, because even if you had those guys on league minimum, that's not going to get you in. Like, you have to move somebody out.
Yeah.
So we're going to have that situation. That's going to be happening. And I think we're going to see that flat cap. One thing, so we'll see some teams with cap space trying to take advantage of that. I think we're going to see a lot more, and it started the last few years already, but we're going to see more young players getting chances early.
Yeah.
Because they're cheap. You can afford them. So we're going to see some of these players getting in, way more rookies next year making their debuts, right? Guys drafted and making their debuts, making it with the team because you have to.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. We're going to see a lot more trades where a team with a lot of cap space is taking on dead salary, basically, and getting big picks in return for that.
For sure, right? And we see that the biggest example being the Arizona Coyotes, right? Which is how they managed to still be the tops of the NHL in salary cap, and still are next year, right? Like, they still have Marian Hossa, Hall of Famer Marian Hossa is still on the books for them next year. A lot of big dollars there for them. So some of these teams are going to have to get creative. It'll make for a very interesting off season, to say the least.
Yeah, I think so too. And it sounds like this is going to be the case with the cap for a couple of years.
Yeah, well, and because we don't know so as of right now, the date for the NHL draft is October 9th.
Yeah.
So we'll have a Thanksgiving draft, Canadian Thanksgiving, the real Thanksgiving. And then we'll have an off season, presumably like October 20th will be free agency, even less than that. And then we'll probably get back sometime in December. Maybe by December we're able to have fans in the seats, but if not, NHL needs to find a way to make this salary cap work.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to have fans in seats by December yet, but it does sound like December's their target start date for 2021.
Right. With it, and they're still hoping for a full season. They're hoping to somehow fit a full 82 game schedule in there, which will also mean that you're going to have a lot of injuries. It's going to be weird. We've got a lot of unprecedented times in sports ahead of us. It's going to be
interesting. People are going to get creative. Leagues are going to get creative. Teams are going to get creative. And it'll be interesting to watch it all unfold.
Tell me if this counts as creative. The Vancouver Canucks, they have a number of talented young players on this team, one of them being Brock Boeser. And it has come to light that they have decided that they want to also manage to keep Tyler Toffoli. And the only way that they can do that is to trade Brock Boeser.
That's not creativity. It's stupidity. Yeah, I said, why? Like, somebody must have an answer to this for an explanation for it. There has to be some logic behind why they want to do this.
Right. What they see in Tyler Toffoli that they think is going to be great, or is it that they think they can get a lot back for Boeser?
Well, so that's the thing, right? Like, look, if teams are calling about a 23-year-old Brock Boeser, you hear them out for sure. And if that's what it's come down to, if they're like, look, we're just kind of hearing people out, what I can't wrap my head around is this being their like strategy or their way forward, that it's them driving this decision.
Right. Because right now, Tyler Toffoli is making $4.6 million this season. You got to imagine, again, who knows what contracts will look like. Maybe he doesn't deserve a raise beyond, but you would think in the old situation, he'd be getting a raise.
Yeah.
So we've got Tyler Toffoli making $5 million or Brock Boeser making 5.9. You're not saving much money. What are you getting back?
Get Tyler Toffoli, but like they can probably bring in quite the haul on Brock Boeser.
You would think so. Yeah.
It's just like what's important to you right now. Like this team, I think, is in a pretty good spot. And if they would just keep the course for the way they've been building the last couple of years, they'd be in an even better spot. But instead, they're kind of like starting to pick it apart too early.
I mean, isn't this on brand with a lot of what the Canucks have done already during this, though? Jay Beagle, $3 million per year. Antoine Roussel, $3 million per year. Brandon Sutter, 4.4. Paying Tyler Toffoli and making it so that you can't have young talent on this team seems a little on brand.
Yeah, it is on brand for them for sure. They have a good foundation right now of young players who are very good hockey players.
And I don't want them to mess it up because, in all honesty, like I don't really care one way or the other. I don't have negative thoughts about the Canucks, but I have very positive thoughts about Elias Pettersson, and I want him to have some fun,
right?
See what he can do. Same
with Quinn Hughes.
I mean, unless he wins the Calder instead of Kilmacar, then he can suck an egg.
Oh, right. It's been so long since we've had hockey that I forgot that was the thing.
Yeah.
When do the awards happen?
You know what? I don't think on my list of events, that's not it. Well, because they
could. I honestly think that they could just never mention the awards again, and 2 years from now, someone would be like, "Whatever happened to the NHL awards?"
Yeah, they just disappear.
Just never mention it again.
They just send a group text to the professional hockey writers, and they're like, "Hey, just don't." Okay, cool. Everyone will have that nagging feeling at the start of every year, and they're like, I feel like I'm supposed to write some sort of prediction article, but I don't know what about. Oh, well.
Oh, well. Must be nothing. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
Well, at least hopefully this year we can avoid the terrible comic skits that they do.
Or we just get them from Zoom.
I hope not.
We have Will Arnett alone in an arena.
The only skit that I've ever seen from the awards that was good was Will Arnett doing Brendan Shanahan's suspension videos.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'm not going to lie. I stopped watching the award shows a long time ago.
Oh, me too. I have zero interest.
Because I've got this, there's this really helpful website you could go to, actually, that'll help you. It's called twitter.com. And just follow all of the reporters who report these things. And you'll know because 30 people will tweet it out. And you'll know.
Save 2 hours of your life.
Yeah. You can be doing literally anything else. So we've got that happened. The New Jersey Devils, right? They're a team that we're not going to talk about much because they're not in this return to play, right? They're one of those.
Yeah, they're in rough shape.
They're in one of those other teams. Nick.
No, go on.
No, but you're right, Nick. They are in a little bit of a rough situation. And it's only going to get rougher from here.
Why is that, Carl?
Because, Nick, they announced this week that their interim head coach is no longer their interim head coach. He has been replaced with Lindy Ruff.
Oh, rough.
Rough. It's a weird choice, isn't it?
Yeah. I just don't understand NHL teams and coaches. Like, do they only think that there's a limited amount of people who can coach an NHL team and it's only like 30 people?
There's 30 people who can do it. Lindy Ruff got in once, and that's all you need. You just need to be hired once, and then someone will be like, well, he has NHL experience.
Funny thing is, he hasn't been coaching since 2017.
So he's fresh.
I don't know if I'd call him fresh, but I mean, like, what prompted? How did this come about? That Lindy Ruff has been out of the game for 3 years. How did this conversation start? Was it somebody in a boardroom who was like, "Hey, you know who's available? Lindy Ruff."
This is the guy we need.
This is the guy. They're just watching like old Sabres clips.
They're like, oh, man, we could have him. Did you know that?
They're watching old Dominic Hasek clips on YouTube, and it just flashes to Lindy Ruff on the bench for like 5 seconds. You're like, whatever happened to that guy?
How can we fix Corey Schneider? I know, the guy who coached Dominic Hasek. Well, they did also. General manager Tom Fitzgerald had the interim tag removed. He is now just that. He said, "We are proud to have Lindy Ruff join our organization. He is one of the most successful and respected coaches in the NHL, not only today, but in league history. His personality, experience, knowledge, work ethic, and focus will provide a calm presence in our locker room. He is the right coach at the right time for our organization. He has a proven track record of getting the absolute best out of his players, from stars, role players, and everyone in between," which I'm not sure what's in between stars and role players.
Yeah, like, are role players the bottom of that scale?
Like, I thought the fourth line was at the bottom. Like, I thought that's what we were. But anyways.
Or he's just not good with anyone below role player status.
Yeah, he really cannot connect with those scrubs on the team. Like those career AHLers who are called up because they can't afford anyone else. Lindy doesn't even know their names.
No, he can't deal with it. He's like, I deal with role players or stars.
Or, you know what, he says he gets the absolute best out of them. So maybe he knows them, but he's now getting below AHL caliber out of them. He doesn't know what to do with them. That's
great. The GM like recognizes that he doesn't get the best out of anyone below role player status.
He's like, look, I don't even know how you're this bad. How are you this bad?
So I don't know. I find it kind of hard to judge coaches because you don't really know what happens behind the scenes. His record's okay. It's kind of weird and random. Like, why go back into that bowl?
Yeah. There's other coaches available. And, you know, we've started to see some coaches or some teams start to dip outside of that bubble, right? We got Sheldon Keefe in Toronto, right? He's a new coach. Colorado did the same. And we're starting to see some of them try to dip into different pools of talent. I mean, the Buffalo Sabres hired someone as their general manager, so they're thinking outside the box, and we have to give them credit for that.
You mean their VP of Business Affairs?
Yes, they hired Kevin Adams turned accountant turned general manager.
Here's a question. Do you think they're backfilling his role? Like, do you think they're looking for a new VP of Business Affairs? Because if so, I want to apply.
Yeah, you would get it. You're incredibly qualified for the job.
And clearly it's a stepping stone to becoming an NHL GM, so...
It's true. We would lose you on this show, but it would be the NHL World's gain. So I think...
No, I'd still do the show, Carl. You need to know what's happening inside that organization. And you'd have a direct line into it.
Could you imagine? All of a sudden, what we would have to do, though, is we would have to say goodbye to Nick Sagan. And we'd have to replace you with someone else. What would be your fake name when you would be on the show?
I already have one. It's Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks. There we go. You just officially become Stevie Nicks.
And I come on video now and I like have a mustache and eyeglasses disguise, even though nobody can actually see us.
You've changed. You have a Zoom background up so that I don't know where exactly you are.
It's like San Francisco in the background. Like he won't think I'm in Buffalo.
Yeah. I assume that the VP of Business Development can still do his job from the office in the basement in Toronto you're currently broadcasting from. So don't worry, you don't have to move to Buffalo.
Oh, thank God.
I mean, hopefully they don't listen. Don't put this podcast on your resume, by the way. When you're applying, maybe don't. That's a tip for you.
I won't put it on my resume, but I will list you as a reference. Okay. And we'll do a live call on the air when they call to get a reference.
Yeah. His phone number is this. This looks like a Zoom number. No, it's fine.
Just please don't tweet it.
Yeah. Well, it'll just be an Easter egg. At the end of next week's episode, make sure, this is how we do it, Nick. Make sure you stay till the very end after Stevie has finished singing his song, because there's a special surprise for you with featuring Kevin Adams.
Oh, that's a funny thought. Backfilling that role. Oh, man.
So Lindy Ruff, he got hired. And that's been the week in the NHL. We're back. One thing that we do have, we got a quarantine corner question, Nick. So let's head there for a quick second.
All right.
Quarantine.
Each corner is to be a personal space.
God. New guy's in the corner puking his guts out.
You're gonna quarantine me inside a quarantine? Really?
Rocky Balboa praising his corner the champ.
Am I still in quarantine?
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
All right, Nick, here's So before we get to that question, I have a more important quarantine corner question.
Okay.
The NHL quarantine is over.
Yes.
Do we continue the quarantine corner?
You know what? I don't think that we do. I was just thinking I was making a mental note to talk to you about this because quarantine's kind of, especially now that summer's here, people aren't really quarantining anymore.
Well,
not where we are anyways.
And phase 3 is like, it's started everywhere. So.
Except for Toronto.
Except for, you'll get there. I believe in you. So this is also the final quarantine corner then, which is fair because I think we've sadly either figured out how to quarantine or stopped trying and just don't. So
yeah, we've learned to live with it.
I think the quarantine corner has run its course, but you know what? It did a great job for people. And this is where if we had an intern still, we'd get them to roll the montage from Quarantine Corner.
Man, we need a montage. We'll build one for next Christmas's best of show.
It'll just be all of the great advice about haircuts, barbecue, dog walkers. That was which brought us into a whole suggestion on taxes and financials, which I mean, I know I said not to send them to you, but maybe you should send them as the business development person. You have some very good advice for that paying your dog walker question. Yeah.
You know what? It's true. But now I'm the VP I will be the VP of business development. So I got charged for that advice. So you better get your questions in soon.
Okay, well,
before they hire me.
It's too bad. I mean, you can still send in your questions, but this is the official end of the Quarantine Corner. So,
do we have a question fitting for the end?
We don't. No. If I had have known that this was the last Quarantine Corner, I would have, because a little inside the actor's studio, that was literally how we decided to end it. This was not talked about.
No.
Ever.
Nope. That's how we roll on this show.
We spent all of our pre-show talk figuring out, are we doing a show next week? And then talking about not show-related things. So this is it. The question is, Nick, which hub city is better, Edmonton or Toronto?
It's just like that? Just open like that? No context? Like, what's the better city?
Just open. It is literal question. Better quarantine hub, Edmonton or Toronto.
Oh,
so take that for what it's worth.
So in the context of quarantining and staying in the bubble, which is the better option?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Edmonton.
Why do you say that?
Because there are so many people in Toronto and it's such a dense city. If I was one of the players, I would rather go to Edmonton where there's less people. It's a little more open and any like activities people want to do is mostly outdoors and nature focused.
Well, then you're not allowed to do outdoors activities either.
Are they not even allowed to leave the hotels?
No, if you leave, you've got to go back. And so could you imagine, like, again, the chaos that would happen if all of a sudden Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, who else is playing on these teams that people will get excited about? Who's even in the Western Conference, Nick? It's been 4 months since we had hockey.
Leon Draisaitl. Patrick Kane. Tyler Seguin.
Jamie Benn. We'd have,
Taylor Hall.
Elias Pettersson. Phil Kessel. You think Phil Kessel's walking down the street and he's not getting just dozens of people wanting to buy him a hot dog from a street vendor? I don't think.
But then they'd realize that he's Phil Kessel, the hockey player, and they're like, oh, huh. I don't know where I was going with that joke. Forget it.
I'm
Edit it out.
No, it's in there, Nick. The Sabres are going to know that that's in there when they start to look at it.
Reading between the lines, this is Carl saying, I don't edit the show.
I just want them to know that, you know what? Not every joke will land, but you acknowledge it and you move on and you acted quickly on that. And they need to know that. Shut it down real fast. Exactly.
Okay, let's think about this logically. Toronto probably has better internet.
Olds, Alberta, which is only a 2-hour drive from Edmonton, was the first place in, I believe, Canada to have Google Fiber installed.
That is something I did not know. Why on earth would they put it there?
I think it was like a test, and I think the town paid Google to do it.
Okay.
As like a, hey, move here. It also could be one of those things that like you hear people say to brag about cities, but it's not actually true. So,
food, restaurant, takeout selection, probably better in Toronto.
Hands down better in Toronto. Yeah. Like Edmonton, I'm not well versed in the culinary scene in Edmonton, but from those of I know who know Calgary and Edmonton, describe Edmonton as like just in general, but on the culinary side, like a poor man's Calgary.
Right.
And Calgary's got a number of of the top restaurants in the country, so a poor man's version of that isn't bad.
Right. Okay, so Toronto, better food. Internet, we kind of just left open. You kind of threw me off with that Google fact.
Mm-hmm.
Facilities, arena, workout rooms. Edmonton's got to be better, right?
Because it's brand new, right? You're getting the best of the best. And probably commute. I don't know how far. How far is Hotel X from Scotiabank Arena?
It is probably, you can't walk it. It's not like it's across the street. It's down by the exhibition ground, so it's like a bus ride away.
See, with everything being closed off, players don't even have to get dressed to go from their hotel room to the arena in Edmonton. So that's a perk.
Yeah.
Right?
That is a perk.
You can just put on that comfy hotel robe that they give you and make your way down.
And I still think, population-wise, Toronto, especially after they publicize the names of those hotels, there's going to be a lot more people hanging around there. People from the public than there will be in Edmonton.
Well, I think you'll have a lot of players buying. You should actually quickly buy that glasses mustache combo because a lot of players are going to be buying those up in your city.
I should just buy them all. And I'll just stand outside Hotel X and sell them to NHL players as they're walking in.
I mean, we can't afford these. That's how that's business development. Buffalo,
boom, baby.
Buffalo, look what he just did. You should sell Sabres branded ones. And they have that Buffa slug as the mustache.
Just like branded disguise tools. That's ridiculous. Oh my God.
All right. So you've got your criteria now, right? We've done food, hotels, amenities, internet, temperature, right? The weather. It's going to get way warmer in Toronto than it is in Edmonton.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is either a pro or a con. To me, I pick Edmonton weather over Toronto's.
At that point of the summer, yeah, for sure.
In general, I think if I had to pick a city where I could not leave my hotel, I could only go to and from games. I would have to find ways to eat good food. I'd have to entertain myself. I think because of the potential madness of Toronto, I would pick Edmonton.
I think I would pick Edmonton too.
Which I never thought I would say.
No, me neither. But for this very specific thing, I would pick Edmonton.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Congratulations, Edmonton. You are the winner of the final Quarantine Corner question. You did it. And we're proud of you.
And speaking of hub cities, we never even talked about the daily schedule for games.
Oh,
and
my
I know
goodness.
we're running low on time here, but there's going to be hockey on from 12 o'clock Eastern till like 11 p.m. all day.
I informed my wife that I would be watching hockey from 10 a.m. in the morning local time until I go to bed, and she was less than pleased. So
it's very exciting.
I'm gonna, we'll fit some baseball in between those. We'll have some basketball on. The first 2 weeks are going to be great. Luckily, Nick, I planned a week's vacation the first week of August. So qualifying round, I'll be checking in on my phone.
Well, it's good. Doesn't matter. It's not the playoffs, right?
Right. It's not I'm not missing playoff hockey. I'm missing qualifying round hockey. So that's someone else's problem, I suppose. Well, this has been a full episode. Before we wrap up, let's let everyone know about the fantastic podcast called Straight from the CPA's Mouth. And you know who they should have on as a guest on this show, Nick?
The VP of Business Affairs of the Buffalo Sabres.
The VP of Business Affairs or Development or whatever your new title is of the Buffalo Sabres. Because this show, Straight from the CPA's Mouth, is a podcast series created by the CPA Education Foundation and funded by the Heshi Prod CPA Knowledge Center. So, Alberta's chartered professional accountants are experts on a wide range of topics and issues of interest to Albertans, and now also Buffalo. Straight from the CPA's Mouth has discussions on topics important to you, from leadership skills, achieving career potential, financial literacy, how to make your tax refund bigger. Whether you're a university student, new Albertan, a parent, a hockey team looking for management advice and business development, you'll find something of value on this unique show. So go to Straight from the CPA's Mouth on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you go, or their website, cpaalberta.ca/foundation. cpaalberta.ca/foundation is your place to go for the show. Thanks to them for supporting this episode of The Fourth Line. You can go to thefourthlinepodcast.com to find more about us and what we've got going on. Nick, a series you might find interesting. Mike Laybourne is working his way up until the October 9th draft and looking at every single fourth overall draft pick ever selected to see what exactly the Detroit Red Wings have in store for them. He started with the 1960s, and I'm going to tell you, it didn't look good.
That is a tall task that he has taken on. But you know what? I love me some Mike Laybourne. So I hope everybody's flocking over there to read that.
So tune in and find out what it's got to get better in the 70s, because only 3 players drafted 4th overall in the 60s ever made it to the NHL. So,
well, the 70s were very bad for the Red Wings. So I don't expect anything good to come of that.
Well, so it's 4th overall picks, not Red Wings picks, though. So it's so that you'll have an idea. When you pick 4th overall, are you getting an NHLer or not? So, but it's going to be great. You're going to get one. Because do you know who was picked 4th overall?
Male Kakar?
No. I'm going to give you a hint. I've heard a rumor that a certain general manager in Michigan was drafted 4th overall. Is this true?
Oh, I see what you're doing there. Steve Yzerman was, I believe, drafted 4th overall. Now you're really testing my knowledge. I thought it was 3rd. 4th overall. There you go.
So
Steve Yzerman, 4th overall pick.
So you know that so next he's doing the 70s, he'll do the 80s after that, because that's how calendars go. You know you're going to like that series. It's going to talk a lot about Yzerman. So
1983.
Head on over there. If you liked this week's show, let us know. We appreciate it. You can let us know on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast, Facebook.com/The Fourth Line Podcast, mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com, or you can leave us a review on any of your podcasting devices of choice. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. And for the first time in months, we'll be back next week.
Hey, time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. Phase 3 may have left me behind, but I'm the VP that the Sabres really need to find.